Chosen one. Have you noticed something strange lately? The more you grow, the more uncomfortable certain people become around you. The more clearly you see through illusions, the more others seem irritated by your presence. It's as if your very awareness is exposing something they would rather keep hidden. You're not louder than them. You're not forcing your ideas on anyone. Yet somehow, your wisdom alone is enough to disturb the room. Why? Because when someone refuses to dim their mind, refuses to play small, and refuses to pretend ignorance just to make others comfortable, it disrupts the entire system. Most people are used to a world where everyone stays in the same mental cage, repeating the same beliefs, following the same patterns, and never questioning the script. But you stepped outside of it. You started asking deeper questions. You began seeing patterns others ignore. And that kind of clarity is powerful, but it's also threatening to those who are still asleep. Your insight forces people to confront truths they've been avoiding. Your independence reminds them of the courage they never developed. So if you've ever felt like your awareness makes others uneasy, you're not imagining it. In this video, we're going to reveal why chosen ones who refuse to shrink their minds unintentionally trigger everyone around them, and why that's actually a powerful sign you're exactly where you're meant to be. Your clarity exposes illusions. There comes a moment in the journey of a chosen one when the fog begins to lift. The world that once looked ordinary suddenly reveals hidden layers. Conversations start to feel different. People's intentions become easier to read. Patterns that once went unnoticed now appear obvious. It is not that you became judgmental, it is that your awareness expanded. Spiritual clarity is like turning on a light in a dark room. The moment the light appears, everything that was hidden becomes visible. Masks become transparent. False loyalty becomes easier to recognize. Manipulation no longer disguises itself as kindness. And the strange part is, you don't even have to say anything for people to feel exposed. Your energy alone begins to disturb illusions. Many people build their lives around comfortable stories they tell themselves. They convince themselves that certain relationships are genuine, that certain systems are fair, and that certain behaviors are normal. These illusions create a sense of emotional safety. But when someone like you enters the room, someone who sees deeper, those illusions begin to crack. Not because you attack them, not because you criticize them, but because your awareness quietly reveals what others are trying to hide. To someone who is still asleep to these deeper truths, your presence can feel unsettling. They may not even understand why they feel uncomfortable around you, but subconsciously, they sense that you see beyond the surface. This is one of the hidden burdens of spiritual awakening. When your mind becomes clear, the world becomes transparent. You start recognizing energy, motives, and truth in ways that most people haven't developed yet. But this clarity is not a curse, it is a gift. It is the universe sharpening your perception, preparing you to move through life with wisdom, discernment, and spiritual vision. And once your eyes open like this, they never close again. You ask questions others are afraid to ask. One of the clearest signs of a chosen mind is the courage to question what everyone else accepts without thought. While most people move through life following familiar paths, repeating inherited beliefs, and obeying social expectations, you feel an inner pull to stop and ask, why? Why do people think this way? Why are certain rules never questioned? Why do so many follow traditions they barely understand? These questions may seem simple on the surface, but they carry powerful energy. Questions awaken the mind. They break the silent agreements that keep people mentally comfortable. And once a question is asked, the illusion of certainty begins to shake. Many people prefer the safety of conformity. It allows them to belong without thinking too deeply. When everyone agrees, life feels predictable and secure. But the moment someone like you begins questioning the script, it disrupts that comfort. Your curiosity becomes unsettling, not because your questions are wrong, but because they force people to confront ideas they have never examined. A question has the power to reveal cracks in beliefs that have been standing for years. And when those cracks appear, some people feel threatened rather than enlightened. Spiritually, questioning is not rebellion, it is awakening. The universe often guides chosen ones through curiosity. That deep urge to understand truth beyond surface explanations is part of your higher awareness pushing you forward. You are not meant to blindly inherit reality. You are meant to explore it. While others may see your questioning as disruptive, it is actually the beginning of wisdom. Every great transformation in human history began with someone brave enough to ask a question no one else dared to voice. So never silence that part of your mind, because the questions you ask today may be the very ones that awaken minds tomorrow. You refuse to pretend. One of the quiet strengths of a chosen one is the inability to live behind a mask. While many people learn early in life how to perform for acceptance, smiling when they don't feel joy, agreeing when they don't truly believe, pretending comfort in places that drain their spirit, you feel a deep resistance to that kind of existence. Your soul rejects it. You cannot laugh simply because everyone else is laughing. You cannot support ideas that contradict your inner truth just to keep the peace. And you cannot comfortably remain in environments where authenticity is replaced by performance. This is why fake spaces often feel exhausting to you. Conversations that revolve around appearances, shallow validation, or social games can feel strangely empty. It's not that you think you are better than others, it's that your spirit craves something real. Chosen ones are wired for authenticity, and that authenticity quietly disrupts social environments built on pretending. When someone refuses to play along with the unspoken rules of performance, it exposes how much of the world is based on maintaining appearances rather than expressing truth. Your silence can be louder than words. Your refusal to fake enthusiasm can shift the energy in a room. Your honest presence can make others suddenly aware of the masks they are wearing. To those who are comfortable living behind those masks, your authenticity may feel uncomfortable. They may see you as distant, serious, or difficult to read, but what they are actually sensing is something rare, someone who is aligned with their inner truth. Spiritually, authenticity is a form of integrity between the soul and the outer world. When your inner reality matches your outward behavior, your energy becomes powerful and clear. And the truth is, once a chosen one learns to live this way, pretending is no longer possible. Your spirit simply won't allow it. Your growth makes others aware of their stagnation. One of the most uncomfortable truths about personal evolution is this: growth is never silent. When you begin to transform mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, it creates a contrast that people around you cannot ignore. At first, they may celebrate your progress. They may admire your discipline, your awareness, or the peace you've begun to cultivate within yourself. But as your transformation continues, something deeper begins to happen. Your growth starts to reflect a reality that many people would rather avoid. It becomes a mirror. Your willingness to evolve forces others to see where they have remained the same. Your new mindset highlights old habits they still cling to. Your emotional maturity reveals the reactions they have never learned to control. And your spiritual awareness exposes the patterns they have never questioned. This is where discomfort begins. Not everyone is ready to face the distance between who they are and who they could become. Self-reflection requires humility, honesty, and courage. And for many people, it feels easier to dismiss someone else's growth than to confront their own stagnation. Spiritually, growth carries a powerful frequency. When you elevate your mind, your energy shifts, your priorities change. The conversations you entertain become deeper. The environments you tolerate become fewer. Without saying a word, you begin to move differently through the world. And this shift can awaken something inside others, sometimes inspiration, but other times insecurity. To those who are not ready to grow, your progress feels like pressure. Your evolution reminds them of potential they have ignored or postponed. But remember this: your journey was never meant to shrink in order to keep others comfortable. Your growth is not an attack on anyone. It is simply the natural unfolding of your purpose. And those who are meant to evolve with you will see your progress not as a threat, but as an invitation. You see through manipulation. One of the quiet powers that begins to awaken in chosen ones is the ability to recognize manipulation long before it fully reveals itself. Where others might only notice something is wrong after the damage is done, you begin to sense the pattern almost immediately. It's not always logical at first, it's energetic. You feel when someone's kindness has hidden conditions attached to it. You notice when guilt is being used as a tool to control your choices. You recognize when pressure is disguised as concern, or when someone tries to steer your decisions through subtle emotional influence. Many people move through life unaware of these dynamics. They confuse manipulation with love, obligation, or loyalty. But once your spiritual awareness sharpens, those tactics become far easier to see. And the moment you see them, they lose their power. Manipulation depends on blindness. It works best when the person being influenced doesn't realize what's happening. But when a chosen one recognizes the pattern, the entire strategy collapses. Suddenly, the guilt no longer works. The emotional pressure loses its weight. The subtle attempts at control become obvious. This is often when certain people begin to grow frustrated with you. They cannot understand why the same tactics that work on everyone else no longer work on you. They may accuse you of being distant, stubborn, or difficult, but what they are truly experiencing is the loss of influence they once expected to have. Spiritually, discernment is a form of protection. As your consciousness evolves, your mind becomes less reactive and more observant. You begin to watch behavior instead of simply accepting words, and that awareness creates freedom. Because once you see manipulation clearly, you stop reacting emotionally to it. Instead, you respond with calm boundaries, quiet distance, and a deeper understanding of human nature. And that level of awareness is something manipulation can never control. You value truth over approval. One of the defining traits of a chosen one is the quiet courage to stand on truth, even when it means standing alone. In a world where many people shape their words, beliefs, and actions around what will gain approval, you feel a deeper responsibility to remain honest with what you see and understand. For many, social validation becomes a guiding force. People adjust their opinions to match the crowd. They soften their beliefs to avoid criticism. They agree with ideas they don't fully believe simply to maintain acceptance within a group. But your spirit does not easily bend that way. There is something within you that values truth more than comfort. Even when silence would be easier, your mind refuses to fully accept ideas that contradict what you know to be real. You would rather face temporary isolation than live in quiet dishonesty. And that kind of independence unsettles people. When someone is used to environments where everyone seeks approval, your willingness to stand firm becomes disruptive. Your voice introduces perspectives that others may secretly recognize as true, but are too afraid to express themselves. Your honesty challenges the unspoken agreement. Many groups operate under the agreement to avoid difficult truths. Spiritually, truth carries a powerful vibration. It aligns the mind, the heart, and the soul into one direction. When a person lives in truth, their energy becomes steady and clear because they are no longer divided between what they believe and what they pretend to believe. But walking this path requires strength. Truth does not always bring applause. Sometimes it brings resistance, disagreement, or distance from people who prefer comfort over clarity. Yet chosen ones understand something important. Approval is temporary, but truth is permanent. And when you build your life on truth rather than popularity, you create a foundation that no amount of social pressure can shake. Your calm confidence feels intimidating. One of the most misunderstood qualities of a chosen one is quiet confidence. In a world where many people try to prove their intelligence through loud opinions, constant debate, or the need to dominate every conversation, your energy moves differently. You do not feel the need to compete for attention or validation. Your confidence is calm. It comes from understanding rather than performance. You observe more than you react. You listen more than you argue. And when you do speak, Your words carry weight because they come from reflection rather than impulse. This kind of presence can be surprisingly intimidating to people who rely on noise to establish authority. When someone is used to controlling a room with volume, ego, or forceful opinions, your quiet certainty disrupts that dynamic. They expect resistance, emotional reactions, or arguments they can overpower. But instead, they encounter stillness, and stillness is powerful. Your calm energy shows that you are not easily shaken by pressure or intimidation. You do not rush to defend yourself because your sense of self does not depend on the approval of the moment. This level of inner stability often confuses people who measure strength through dominance. Spiritually, true confidence grows from self-awareness. When you understand your values, your purpose, and your inner truth, there is no need to constantly prove yourself. Your energy becomes steady, grounded, and balanced, and people can feel that. Some will find it inspiring. They will recognize the peace that comes from someone who has done deep inner work. But others may feel uneasy because your calmness highlights the chaos within them. They mistake your silence for superiority, when in reality, it is simply clarity. Chosen ones learn that real power is not loud. It does not demand attention. It does not need to win every argument. Real power sits quietly and still changes the entire atmosphere of the room. You refuse to lower your standards. One of the most powerful shifts that happens in the life of a chosen one is the moment you stop settling. At some point in your journey, you begin to realize that not every environment deserves your presence. Not every conversation deserves your attention, and not every relationship deserves access to your energy. This realization is deeply spiritual. As your awareness grows, you begin to understand that your time, your peace, and your mental clarity are sacred resources. They are not meant to be constantly drained by negativity, shallow thinking, or people who refuse to grow. So naturally, you begin to set boundaries, and boundaries change everything. You no longer entertain conversations that revolve around gossip, jealousy, or pointless conflict. You become more selective about who you allow into your inner circle. You start choosing spaces that challenge your mind instead of suppressing it. For some people, this shift feels uncomfortable. There may have been a time when they were used to you tolerating things you should never have accepted. They may have grown comfortable with your patience, your silence, or your willingness to overlook behaviors that disturbed your spirit. But the moment you raise your standards, that old dynamic disappears. Suddenly, the access they once had is no longer guaranteed, and this is where resistance often appears. People who benefited from the old version of you may accuse you of changing, becoming distant, or acting differently. But what they are really witnessing is your evolution. Spiritually, raising your standards is a form of self-respect. It means you have begun to understand your value and the importance of protecting your energy. Chosen ones eventually realize something powerful. Not everyone is meant to walk every stage of your journey with you, and once you understand that, you stop shrinking your standards just to keep people comfortable. You start honoring your growth instead. Your perspective challenges comfort zones. One of the subtle qualities of a chosen one is the depth of their perspective. While many conversations in the world remain on the surface, focused on routine opinions, trends, or familiar beliefs, you naturally see beyond the obvious. Your mind searches for meaning, patterns, and deeper truths behind what most people accept at face value. So when you speak, your words often carry a different kind of energy. You introduce ideas that make people pause. You ask questions that require reflection. You connect thoughts in ways that others may have never considered before. What seems like a normal observation to you can suddenly open an entirely new way of thinking for someone else. And this is where the tension sometimes begins. Deep thinking has a way of pushing people out of their mental comfort zones. Many individuals prefer familiar explanations because they feel stable and predictable. They allow people to move through life without questioning too much, without confronting uncertainty, and without exploring uncomfortable truths. But your perspective quietly disrupts that comfort. You may highlight patterns in society that others overlook. You may question beliefs that have been accepted for years. You may offer insights that require someone to rethink the way they see themselves or the world around them. For those who are open-minded, this can be inspiring. Your perspective becomes a doorway to growth, understanding, and expanded awareness. But for those who are deeply attached to their existing beliefs, it can feel unsettling. Spiritually, perspective is a form of vision. Chosen ones are often given the ability to see life from a higher vantage point. Not because they are superior, but because their awareness has been shaped by deeper reflection, observation, and inner growth. Your mind is not meant to remain confined to shallow thinking. It is meant to expand, and sometimes the very ideas that make others uncomfortable are the same ideas that plant the seeds of awakening in their minds. Your perspective challenges comfort zones. One of the subtle qualities of a chosen one is the depth of their perspective. While many conversations in the world remain on the surface, focused on routine opinions, trends, or familiar beliefs, you naturally see beyond the obvious. Your mind searches for meaning, patterns, and deeper truths behind what most people accept at face value. So when you speak, your words often carry a different kind of energy. You introduce ideas that make people pause. You ask questions that require reflection. You connect thoughts in ways that others may have never considered before. What seems like a normal observation to you can suddenly open an entirely new way of thinking for someone else. And this is where the tension sometimes begins. Deep thinking has a way of pushing people out of their mental comfort zones. Many individuals prefer familiar explanations because they feel stable and predictable. They allow people to move through life without questioning too much, without confronting uncertainty, and without exploring uncomfortable truths. But your perspective quietly disrupts that comfort. You may highlight patterns in society that others overlook. You may question beliefs that have been accepted for years. You may offer insights that require someone to rethink the way they see themselves or the world around them. For those who are open-minded, this can be inspiring. Your perspective becomes a doorway to growth, understanding, and expanded awareness. But for those who are deeply attached to their existing beliefs, it can feel unsettling. Spiritually, perspective is a form of vision. Chosen ones are often given the ability to see life from a higher vantage point. Not because they are superior, but because their awareness has been shaped by deeper reflection, observation, and inner growth. Your mind is not meant to remain confined to shallow thinking. It is meant to expand. And sometimes, the very ideas that make others uncomfortable are the same ideas that plant the seeds of awakening in their minds. Your presence reminds people of their potential. Sometimes the reason people feel unsettled around you has very little to do with anything you say or do. In many cases, it is simply your presence. The way you think, the way you carry yourself, and the way you approach life quietly reflects something powerful back to the people around you. It reflects their potential. Chosen ones often live with a certain level of awareness, discipline, and inner reflection that others may not have yet developed. You question life deeply. You search for purpose. You challenge your own limits. And over time, this mindset begins to shape the way you move through the world. But when others observe this, it can stir something within them. Your mindset becomes a mirror that reminds them of who they could become if they pushed themselves further, if they questioned their fears, or if they pursued their deeper purpose. And while some people feel inspired by this reflection, others feel triggered by it. Why? Because potential carries responsibility. The moment someone recognizes what they are capable of, they must also face the reality of what they have not yet pursued. That realization can feel uncomfortable, even painful, for those who have ignored their own growth. So instead of embracing the inspiration, some people react with resistance. They may criticize you, dismiss your mindset, or try to downplay your perspective. But in truth, what they are reacting to is the silent reminder your life represents. Spiritually, chosen ones often serve as catalysts. Your presence awakens dormant thoughts in others. You challenge the limits people place on themselves simply by refusing to limit your own mind. And even if some people resist that energy at first, the seed of awareness has already been planted. Because once someone sees what is possible, it becomes much harder to return to living small. Remember this, chosen one. The goal was never to make everyone comfortable. Your path was never designed to fit neatly into the expectations of others. Your journey is about awakening, growth, and staying true to the awareness that has been placed within you. When you refuse to dim your mind, when you refuse to shrink your wisdom just to keep others comfortable, something powerful begins to happen. You don't just transform your own life, you challenge the invisible limits that surround everyone around you. Your clarity becomes a light, your courage becomes an example, and your journey becomes proof that a different way of living is possible. Yes, not everyone will understand you, some will question you. Some may even feel unsettled by the way you think and the way you see the world, but that is often the sign that you are walking the path you were meant to walk. Because chosen ones were never meant to blend in with the noise of the world. They were meant to awaken, to see deeper, and to inspire others to rise beyond the limitations placed on their minds. And if this message resonates with you, it means you are not alone on this journey. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, like this video, and share it with someone who needs to hear this message today. This channel is here to walk with you through your awakening, to help you understand your path, strengthen your mindset, and navigate the journey of being a chosen one in a world that often doesn't understand it. Your journey is just beginning, and there is so much more ahead.